Oh, hey, welcome to FatBoi Cooking. I'm sorry and apologize for the dancing, but let's get right into the video, shall we? We're going to start by making the sauce first, as this is going to be the longest process. So here are your basic ingredients. 2 pounds of Roma tomatoes, 2 carrot sticks, 2 stalks of celery, 1 medium yellow onion, 1 green bell pepper, 1 head of garlic, fresh thyme, fresh basil, extra virgin olive oil, and tomato paste. The first step of this sexy sauce is to make something called tomato concassé. We're going to first start by removing the core of the tomato. So using your paring knife, kind of slightly angled, draw a circle around the tomato. What you're going to do is just use the tip of your knife to kind of pop that sucker out of there. Repeat this step for all the tomatoes you have on your board. Now that you've cored all your tomatoes, the next step is to make an X in the skin. So on the other end of the tomato, what you're going to do is you're going to take your paring knife and just slightly score the top and repeat the process until you're done with all your tomatoes. Now in a boiling pot of water that has been lightly salted, we're going to submerge our tomatoes and let them cook for about 60 to 90 seconds. After waiting that time, you can remove the tomato to see that the skin has started to peel off. What you're going to do is immediately dunk these tomatoes into a bowl of ice water you have waiting on the side. The purpose of the ice water is to immediately stop the cooking process. What you're going to do now is remove the skin from the tomato. It should come off easily like this, or if you're having trouble, just use your paring knife to help peel the skin away from the tomato flesh. So definitely forgot to record the last step, but what I did was I just cut the tomatoes into smaller chunks to be able to fit them into the blender better. Using the puree option on my blender, we're going to slowly turn these tomatoes into a nice tomatoey, red, juicy, delicious pulp. Leaving the tomatoes to the side, it's time to start working on our vegetables. Cut the celery to about 1/2 inch dice. Always be sure to peel your carrots. Cutting off the tip of the carrots and then slicing them horizontally down the middle. Cut your carrots to a 1/2 inch dice. Cut off the tip and root of the onions. Be sure to clean up the little scraps in your board just to keep your work surface clean. Cut the onions down the middle and then a 1/2 inch rough chop. Same thing for the bell pepper. Cut off the top and the bottom. Make sure you remove the sticker, cut down the middle, take out the inside, and cut the bell pepper into 1/2 inch chunks. And now for the best part, the garlic! Insert weird finger thingy here. Peel the garlic or edit it to make it look like you peeled it. And then you're gonna cut the garlic into nice thin strips. This is what the garlic should look like when you're done. Add all your vegetables to your food processor, minus the garlic. Make sure you keep that to the side, we're going to use that later. I'm just using the pulse feature on my food processor to turn those celery, carrots, onions into tiny little chunks. Now if you don't have a food processor, feel free to go ahead and just hand cut it. For me, since I had it sitting around, I decided to use it. In a pot, I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. Letting the oil get hot, and then we're going to add our chopped vegetables to the pot. We need to sweat all these vegetables down. There's going to be a lot of liquid that forms in the bottom of the pan. We don't want that, so let it cook out. When you notice that all the liquid has almost evaporated, it's time to add your garlic. Let the garlic cook for about 3 to 5 minutes. Add in your pureed tomatoes. Add the thyme right into the pot. Yes, there's other ways you can do this, but I'm telling you, add it right to the pot. Give it a little mix, let that thyme get all up in there and do its thing. I'm now adding about a tablespoon of red chili flake. Add 2 cups of water, followed by a cup of olive oil, bring that mixture to a boil, put the cover on, turn it to a medium-low heat. Let that sauce simmer for 2 hours, baby. After the 2-hour simmer, remove the thyme stems. Add 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, 1 tablespoon of cumin, and then the jar of tomato paste. And then add in your chopped basil. Give it a nice stir to incorporate all of your ingredients into the sauce. Bring it back up to a boil, cover with a lid, and let it simmer again for 2 more hours. After 2 hours, you're left with a beautiful, thick, sexy, delicious, just sauce. Don't forget to taste it. Oh, missed a thing of parsley or thyme there, whatever it's called. And boom, the sauce is done. Do a little happy dance. Here are your basic ingredients for homemade pasta. 6 large whole eggs, 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of olive oil, which is optional. In a mixing bowl, we're going to start by adding our 3 cups of flour. You can do this straight on your table if you'd like, but just for the sake of not having a sticky floury mess on the table, I opted for the mixing bowl. The next step is to make a well in the flour, so pushing all the flour to the sides of the bowl and creating a hole in the middle. Crack 6 eggs into the well. And add 1 tablespoon of olive oil if you choose. The oil will help create a more silky and softer dough. Now I'm starting to whisk the eggs, slowly incorporating small amounts of flour in every pass. Keep whisking until a rough dough forms inside the bowl. Dump the dough onto a lightly floured work surface. The first time I made this dough, my hands got all sticky and doughy, so make sure you cut your hands in the flour as well. Start to knead the dough, incorporating as much flour as you can. You must knead the dough for 10 to 12 minutes. After 10 to 12 minutes, you'll end up with a dough that is smooth and should spring back a bit when you press into it. Cover with plastic wrap and let sit for 30 minutes. Now it's time to roll the dough. So what I'm doing here is just cutting the dough in half. This will make it easier to roll out. I flour 1 half of the dough and set the other half to the side. Be sure to keep the other half covered to prevent it from drying out. Start by rolling the dough on the roller's widest setting. Go down in width after each pass. On my roller, I went from 6 being the widest all the way down to 2 being the thinnest. I then cut the pasta sheet into smaller sized chunks, about the length of your average spaghetti noodle. I put on the cutter attachment and began to cut my pasta on the spaghetti side. After cutting the pasta, place on a sheet tray in neat, tight bundles and lightly dust with flour. Cook the pasta for 3 to 4 minutes in salted water. And now it's time to plate. First, start with putting the noodles down, then put on the sauce, and to finish, shave some grana padano on top. And there you have it, homemade spaghetti and pasta sauce. Now enjoy some awesome pictures taken during the shooting process.